What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Ryan Pineda Show, where we talk all things money, real estate, and entrepreneurship. And for today's video, we are going to talk about a side hustle that any of you guys can do. And I personally think it's the best side hustle that nobody talks about and no one does. So stay tuned. Okay, so before I tell you what exactly the side hustle is, let me give you the backstory of how I figured this out. So back in 2013, my wife and I, Mindy, had just gotten married in October, and we moved into our first apartment together. And at the time, she was only 21 years old, I was 24, we didn't have money. So in order to furnish the apartment, I ended up buying all the furniture on Craigslist. I was getting a couch here for $100, a table there for $50, I got our beds, I got literally everything you can imagine, all used. I want to say we furnished the whole apartment for like $1,000. And me being an entrepreneur and a go-getter, I knew that we had gotten great deals on everything. I would never pay market value for anything, whether it's used or not. And in my mind, when it was done, I was thinking that we could probably resell it all for like $3,000. But obviously I wasn't gonna do that. It was just a thought in my mind. Now, at the time, I was a struggling realtor, not really making too much money. So I actually decided to go and be a substitute teacher. And I never talk about this because it was such a short period of time that I forget that I even did it. But I ended up getting my substitute teacher's license and started substitute teaching at middle schools and high schools and elementary schools. And I thought it was kind of cool because they would pay you anywhere from $90 to $120 a day, depending on if you worked at an at-risk school or a nicer school. The nicer schools would pay less, the at-risk schools would pay more. And I did this for a couple of months, and I thought it was a super cool job because I'm just sitting there for 6 hours, making $100, not really doing anything. It's super easy. But as I was sitting there, I did have a lot of time to reflect and think about what I wanted to do with my life. I ended up reading a lot of books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but I also started thinking about ideas of how I could make more money for our young family. And I kept coming back to this idea of, we bought all this undervalued furniture and I could go sell it right now and make good money. And as I thought about it more, I said, well, what if I just found one good deal a day? If I found one good deal a day, I could make $200. I could go buy a couch for $100 and resell it for $300 pretty easily. And the reason I knew this was because I had already bought it and I knew what they were going for on Craigslist. So I decided to test my theory. I said, hey, if I can buy one good deal, that takes me like an hour. I don't have to sit in this classroom for 6 hours. So I ended up testing my theory. I bought one couch and I took it back to our apartment. So I actually had this couch taking up like all the space in our apartment. And I don't think Mindy was too happy about that, but I wanted to just test the theory. I ended up putting it back for sale, and a few days later we sold it and made $200. And that's when the light bulb went off. I said, dang, like that was way easier to do than go sit in this classroom for 6 hours. Even though that's easy too, this is way quicker and easier, and it has the potential to make as much as I want. So the minute I did my first sale, I quit substitute teaching because I knew that this was the way to go. And the thing to know about me is once I prove an idea, I just go all in at it. So I ended up buying a $1,500 truck off Craigslist. It was a 1998 GMC Sierra, and I'll never forget this. This was the funniest thing. On the ad, he put that it had 99,000 miles. And I looked at the odometer when I bought it, and it looked like 99,000 miles. As I was driving it a couple days later, I noticed there looked like there was another number that was kind of like in view, but not in view. And sure enough, I looked at it, and it really had 199,000 miles. So I ended up getting duped on this truck. But that being said, for $1,500, I mean, what do you expect, right? And at the end of the day, that truck served its purpose, and it allowed me to start picking up furniture and selling it. So after I bought the truck, I ended up getting a 10 by 30 storage unit that I could drive up to. That was gonna be my warehouse and my storefront, and I was all in. I was just buying everything I could that seemed undervalued. It didn't matter if it was a couch, it didn't matter if it was a table, it didn't matter if it was an appliance. I was buying anything I thought was undervalued. I'd put it all in my storage, I'd clean them up a little bit, take pictures, throw them back on Craigslist, and offer free delivery. That was the key. Offering free delivery made people pay top dollar. And doing this was successful. I started to figure out what things really were worth. I started to figure out what items were the best to use. And the funny thing that happened was I was driving my truck so much more than I was driving a brand new car that I had. At the time, I had a 2014 Mazda 6 that was a beautiful car, but because I was delivering stuff all the time and picking up stuff all the time, I was driving the $1,500 truck way more than that. So after a few months of proving it, I decided to sell them both. I ended up selling the truck for exactly what I paid for it, so that was good. And I ended up selling my new car for a loss. It wasn't that bad of a loss, maybe $5,000, but I knew I needed to get rid of both of them and get a truck that I could drive around every day. So I ended up buying a truck on Craigslist, a 2004 Toyota Tundra with 90,000 miles, and that was going to be my one car. I was gonna use it for everything else I was doing, and I was gonna use it for work. And in fact, we had the truck until recently when I bought my dad a new Suburban and we sold it to one of our contractors. So back to the story, I've got a nice truck now. I've scaled it up. I've got multiple 10 by 30 storage units now because I'm buying so much inventory, and I'm realizing what things I like selling, what things I don't. I realized real quick that appliances were not good. They always broke. They were super heavy. People always complained about them, so I pretty much stopped buying appliances. The other thing I didn't like about appliances was I needed somebody else to help me load and unload them. Try getting a fridge up into your truck. Try getting a fridge out of your truck. It's not easy. So I stopped doing that because I wanted a business where I could do it by myself and I didn't need help. I also realized that dining tables and things like that just didn't get that much money. I might buy one for 50 bucks, but I could only sell it for 100 to 150. It wasn't worth all the time and headache to do that. I needed somebody to help me lift the dining table. So that was out of the question. What I realized as I did it was that couches were easily the best things you could buy. There was a ton of supply of them. You could get a lot of good deals. You could load it by yourself, and you might be thinking to yourself, there's no way you could load it by yourself. How? Well, you tip one end up onto the truck, then you go and pick up the back end and lift it up and push it into the truck, and that's it. It's super simple to do it by yourself. It may seem like it's hard, but it's not. And the thing with couches is once you take off all the cushions, and the type of couches we're buying are pretty cheap, so they're pretty lightweight. They're not what you think. So I just learned that I needed to specialize in couches. And I learned real quick what couches get the most money. Sectionals by far outperformed everything else. Leather sold better than microfiber. I learned that if you could remove the covers and just wash them, they look brand new. If the covers couldn't be removed because they were attached, those were a pain in the butt because there's really no way to clean it other than getting a professional. So I became really niche in my couch searches on what I wanted. I was basically going after neutral colored sectionals that had covers that could be removed so that we could just throw them in the washer and put them back on. Those were the best sellers by far. I could pick them up for $100 to $200 and sell them for $200 to $300 more than what I paid for them every single time without fail. I learned that a couch by itself, like your typical love seat or a 3-seater couch, is not worth it. You could get it for 50 bucks, but it's still only gonna get 100 to 150. So I ignored those. I would occasionally buy a couch love seat combo because that could make good money, but nothing beat the sectional. At one point I had up to 4 10 by 30 storage units that you could just drive up to. And it was super cool because whenever somebody would come look at one couch, if they didn't like it, I could go sell them on another couch. I'd be like, hey, here's my units, I'll show you around, take a look, maybe there's something else you like. And so a lot of times a potential customer that came for one couch ended up buying another. So this was honestly my first experience at running a legit business, and I was doing it by myself. And I got to the point where I was making on average $8,000 net profit every month. This was after paying my gas, the storage expense, and that was it. And the overhead on it was not very much because we're buying these couches for $100 to $200. I might have like $2,000 sitting out there at a time, but when I go to sell it all, I'm gonna make $6,000 to $7,000. So I loved the couch business. I'll tell you, if I didn't find real estate, I'd have probably kept doing it because it was an easy way to make 6 figures. I had months where we made $12,000. Man, I remember during Christmas time when everybody was selling their stuff because they're gonna buy a new one for Black Friday or whatever. I made $12,000 one December because we bought so much inventory and sold so much. So I know that the business can be quite lucrative. I ended up doing this for about 3 years before I learned how to finally flip houses. And I actually was doing it when I first started flipping houses because that was my main source of income. So that's why I always tell people, you don't have to give up your day job right away. I didn't. Flipping couches was my day job. After about 6 months, and once I proved I could flip houses, I quit doing it because of opportunity cost. I knew that it was taking more time away from me finding the big deals that can make me a lot more. And also during that time as well, I ended up hiring my friend to help me with those couches while I was transitioning into real estate. The way that we'd work that was I would find the couches on Craigslist, I'd negotiate, I'd send him to go pick them up and pay for them. He'd bring them back to the warehouse, strip them down, get them cleaned up. I would relist them on Craigslist and let him know when he needs to go deliver it to another house. I'd pay him 50 bucks every time he picked one up, 50 bucks every time he brought one back. And we were making 200 bucks a couch, so he'd basically make 100 and I would make 100. So that was my first experience at actually delegating and hiring out for my business. So I learned a lot of good principles from this business, and I will say that it has made me such a better negotiator and salesman. I definitely have bought and sold over 1,000 items on Craigslist during this period. When you get into 1,000 negotiations, no matter what the price is, you start learning people's tendencies, you learn how to negotiate, you learn how to make low offers. I know that that business was a way to set me up for these bigger businesses. So I'm super grateful that I got to experience all that. And I forgot, the best part about all that was I was learning real estate investing while I was doing that. Because I was on the road delivering and picking up couches so much, I would listen to real estate podcasts like Bigger Pockets. And I did that for about 3 hours a day. So I was consuming all this real estate content. I was listening to all these audiobooks and working on the long-term future for myself while making an active income. So I absolutely loved couch flipping. I just realized at one point that I'd pretty much reached the max of what I could do with it, and it was time to do something bigger. Now, with all that being said, what do you need to do if you want to start couch flipping or flip anything on Craigslist? Number one, make sure you pick what you want to sell. You could try multiple things at once, just like I did. It doesn't have to be couches. Maybe you're an expert at cell phones or comic books or collectibles, whatever it is, you could flip anything on Craigslist. And I know Gary Vee has made this somewhat popular now, buying stuff at garage sales and reselling them and baseball cards. He wasn't talking about that stuff when I was doing this. This was me just hustling, getting it done. So at the end of the day, I don't care what you end up selling. Just pick something that you know the value of and that there's actually a good supply of that you can buy. Because it doesn't do you any good to only go after comic books, but there's never any comic books for sale. The reason I love couches is there's always couches for sale. There's always furniture for sale. So pick something that people are actually selling daily. Second thing, research the value. Figure out what the market value for things is. I realized that couches sell for $300 to $400 on average on Craigslist. So I knew I needed to buy them for $100 to $200. As long as I could make $200, I was gonna make my spread. And that was how I looked at it. If I couldn't make at least $200 on a deal, I wasn't gonna do it. Now, that's not to say that you need to do that. Maybe you end up specializing in smaller items. Maybe you're gonna do volume and make $20 an item, $50 an item. That's cool, you can do that, but it wasn't for me. I would rather have the bigger margins and less volume. Listing all these items and talking to all these people is a pain in the butt, and it takes the same amount of time to do all that to make $20 versus making $200. So I would pick a high margin item. Third thing is, make sure it's convenient for both the seller and the buyer. So here's what I mean by that. When I would see a good deal on a couch, I would say, hey, I will pick it up right now. Okay, I'm offering convenience to the seller, so now they're going to sell it to me at a discount. This is the same thing we do with flipping houses. We make it super convenient for them so that we can get a discount on the house. Same principle on these couches. I'm gonna make it convenient for you. I'm gonna pick it up right now. It's out of your hair. You don't gotta worry about it anymore. So I'd pick up the couch, bring it back to my warehouse. Then I would start the convenience process for the buyer. So I would take off all the cushion covers, wash them, get them clean, put them back on, take really nice pictures, and then here's the key. I would offer free delivery. The free delivery is what got them every single time. When you offer free delivery and you offer a nice looking couch, they are going to buy it for whatever you're selling it for. Honestly, 90% of the time, they never even haggled me on price. They just bought it, which is odd because I try to haggle everything I buy, yet they never haggled on it because they just thought it was a good deal. It was convenient. They're willing to pay that. So you have to clean it up and offer free delivery. And that's really the basics of making money buying and selling things. A few other quick tips I would add is when you're looking for deals, search multiple keywords that it could be. So when I was searching for couches, I would search couch, sofa, sectional, those type of things. When I go to sell it, I would put the same keywords. Beautiful, brown, sectional couch, microfiber. I'm just trying to hit all these keywords that people might be searching for. That way my listing gets found. And honestly, it's that easy to run a business on Craigslist. If you have smaller items, you could do it from your home if you're okay with everyone coming to your home. If you have big items and you need storage, maybe you start out in your garage first. Then if the business grows, you go get a storage unit. Storage units are really cheap, guys. I would also suggest that you get a drive-up storage unit so you could easily drop off stuff and put it right back in. If you gotta walk through the maze of the storage unit, it's totally not worth it. So keep that in mind. Pay a little more just to have that convenience. As you can tell, I'm all about convenience on all aspects. That is gonna make your business much smoother. I think that pretty much covers everything. I've had a lot of questions about this business because a lot of people know my story. And honestly, I love it because it's a business that literally anyone can do. So if you got value out of this video, do me a big favor, make sure you go and hit that like button. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the little bell notification. That way you get updated every time I release a video. And make sure you follow me on all the socials. I'm active on there daily. And as always, get out there, go hustle, go make some money, and I appreciate you for watching. Take care.